Hello everyone, Stellar here. Today I just felt like making a video real quick on we're gonna model this Glock here by Salient Arms. Because I've had a lot of people ask me how I go about modeling, and I'm actually going to be creating a course where I show you in depth from start to finish how to make a gun, both a pistol, and I'm thinking about either doing an SMG or maybe like an assault rifle of some sort. But yeah, it's going to be teaching you how to make it from start to finish and all that good stuff. Get into how I go about making something like this and how people can do it really easily with Boxcutter and Hard Ops, which you could do it normally in Blender, but I prefer using Boxcutter and Hard Ops. So I'm going to go and use this use the make option here, and then we're going to choose Ingon, and we're going to make sure it's from view right now. And so the first thing I like to do when creating any pistol or anything like that is I like to pick a straight line and start off of it, because if you got a straight line to start with, it's hard to mess it up. So I'm holding control while doing this, and we'll go ahead and release control so that way it gives us pretty much all of the control we need here. And it's pretty hard to see. I have it hidden. I can unhide it to let you guys see it real quick. But I usually like to do stuff with the Ingon make tool because it makes life a whole lot easier. And we're gonna revisit where that trigger's at here in just a moment, the trigger guard and all that. So right now it's not needed in this step. So I'm gonna hold shift and right click to break that off, make sure it's good to go, and I'll extrude it out about just kind of eyeballing it because I don't have a front view there. But I do have some experience with firearms, so I know about how wide it needs to be. Maybe a little bit wider. And then you'll see it's offset. What I usually like to do, I know there's a way you could probably fix that, but I usually just like to snap my selection to the cursor and just move it back. There we go. So we got basic shape going on here. So now what we're going to do, really quickly, just GG to move these verts down, or these edges here. Then I'm going to take this edge. Before I do that, I'm going to put a mirror on it, bring it up, doing the good old Control tilde menu. It's my favorite menu. I'm going to apply the weld and turn on that so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to Control sharpen it and just put a slight bevel on it just so we can kind of see what we're doing here. But yeah, I like the Control tilde menu because you can pretty much do everything from within this menu while allowing it to stay full screen. But if I ever need to get to the side over here for whatever reason, it's just right there when I need it. So moving swiftly along, I'm going to take these edges here, and instead of going with this little angle kind of like it is there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it flat down, and we're going to chop that off later. So I'll go ahead and get the bevel going, make sure my scale is applied first. And Glocks are known for being somewhat chunky, so you don't have to worry about the curve in the back too terribly much because, well, Glocks are chunky. Alright, now that we've got that bevel there, I'm going to go ahead and grab these and go ahead and make these look nice. I know there's definitely better ways to model weapons and everything, especially using subdivision surface modifiers in the lot, but even though this is one giant end gun, it is still possible to bring an object like this into Substance Painter after you do some minor cleanup and triangulate everything. Go ahead and select everything, Q, mark, so it gets rid of our sharp edges, and then we're going to go ahead and C-sharp it again. So we got a nice curve going on the back, and we kind of need that to match on the front here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Same thing with this. I'll go ahead and chop that off in a moment. Bring it forward some more. Now with modeling like this, you can do it pretty fast. Like, there's no real hard thing to do, and it doesn't take that much time. It's quick and easy and dirty. It's disgusting. Sometimes I get looked at like I'm a madman because I create the biggest ingon on the planet here, but it's still doable, and I've done it before. A lot of my work is giant ingons that have just been triangulated and substance painted. Some of the stuff even still has bevels on it, like I apply the bevels and bring it into Substance Painter. You have to deal with a lot of more issues and artifacts and everything, but it's still doable. So for this end here, I don't feel like having to deal with the bevel coming all the way, and it's kind of cut in there. So there's multiple ways we can do this, but I'm wanting to try something new and crazy here. So we're going to bring it to about there, and we're going to leave it there for now. But with my courses in the future, I do want to basically just help teach people how to make weapons, because I've had a lot of people asking me how to do it, what are the easiest ways, who do they need to watch to do it. And there's plenty of people. I know Ponty, I don't know how to say the last part of his name, but I believe it's like Ryui or something like that. Anyways, Ponty, he does really good. He has a course out right now on Blender Market and all that about how to do like sci-fi weapons. So there's definitely different types of people you can watch. I like to take the more realistic approach to my weapons design, whether it's sci-fi or possibly slightly futuristic, or even old school. I like to keep the realistic look and approach of these things because it sits right in my head. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get that nice little cut there, and there's many different ways to do everything especially when it comes to doing 3D work. Is you definitely want to nail down your style, because if you don't have a style nailed down, then you're going to be all over the place all the time and getting mad at yourself that something doesn't look right in the future. So you want to pick realistic, pick stylized, pick in between. Practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. I'm not saying my stuff is perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I definitely recommend just finding a style and sticking to it, really. So we're going to add a good old-fashioned cube here. Bring that up on the Z. And so we're just going to make this front end bit here, if I can manage to get my camera to work with me. And though our little reference picture is off here, a lot of the times using reference is probably the best bet you could ever do. Because if you're not using reference, even if you're not copying something, if you're not using reference, it's just, you're asking for trouble. Like, you're going to miss details you wouldn't have expected to miss. And you're going to be looking at your project when you're done with it, just curious, like, well, how come this didn't work? It's because you didn't look at reference. A lot of things I highly recommend doing is just looking at reference. So we're going to hide that. I don't like how curved this is, and there is a way we can fix that, but I like to do things difficult. So we're just gonna manually grab all this here. Kind of keep a curve going because it is curved there. But I didn't like how drastic it was. Too much of a curve. So we kind of calm that edge down a little bit. We do have a little bit of artifacting there, but that's no big deal. So I'm gonna bring that back. So now that's fitting in there a lot better. And in fact, I'm sitting here doing things the hard way. I can just extrude that, push it in, extrude it out some more, just so we kind of match up ever so slightly. And the things with references is you definitely want to have it just so you can know what's really going on with your project and your model, as far as like what type of details am I missing. Because I've had this happen to me, and I've had this happen to a couple of my friends. They get into their models and they're like, well, my model, it's missing something, but I don't quite know what. And a lot of the times what it is the reference that they skipped out on, be it like if you're making a jet, you want to have a bunch of reference pictures of different types of planes, or if you're making a jet that already exists, you definitely want to have some sort of reference so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. That and just kind of lets you know that you're missing something. That, oh hey, this bolt pattern works here, and you know I need to have more detail there because otherwise it doesn't make too much sense. Now, I have no clue why this got rotated, but we're gonna deal with it. There we go, we kind of got that going on, so I'm going to go ahead and C-sharpen that. I like to work with a non-destructive / destructive type of workflow, because it works best for me. And what works best for me might not work best for everybody, but that's just my type of work. My style really is I like to get it where I need it to be, and then I just make it permanent. Really is just, that's all I can really say, is get it to where you need it to be, make it permanent, and move on with your life. No point in hanging out and working extra hard. And so there, I know the model's not really like that, but see, with 3D modeling is you get to take creative liberties. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get in good old fashioned in-gun right here. And we're going to just draw this trigger guard out, because I really like how this trigger guard looks. I've had Glocks in real life as real handguns, and I could definitely say where it's a good pistol, but it does have its issues, and one of its biggest issues is the fact that its trigger guards are really not great at all. They get painful to shoot multiple rounds out during the day. There's a little part where your index finger or your middle finger right over here on a real Glock that's not been modified kind of pinches your finger, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. And that's another thing with weapons designs. People need to think when they're designing weapons and look at the weapon, especially the grip, the trigger guard, how far the trigger is away from the grip, and the whole nine. And they need to look at it and be like, hey, would this be painful for me to hold in real life? Because if the answer is yes, then you need to redesign your weapon. Because if it looks painful, then it's probably going to be painful. So with this, we got the trigger guard kind of going in. And on Glocks, there's an ever so slight bevel that matches up with them. With the weapon itself, the frame itself. So we're just going to go ahead and union these together. That did a pretty good job, but there is some issues, so we're going to go ahead and sharpen that and see where our issues lie. And I see where our issues lie, so just go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup. I've gotten used to being able just to look through the bevel. I used to have to turn off the modifier just so I can see what I'm doing, but I don't really have to do that too much anymore. I'm going to go ahead and move these inwards just a little bit because I like that. There, and so kind of got that shape going. We can go in and further refine this, give it a nice little bevel. Probably do it one at a time because we want it to be nice and friendly with each other. And I occasionally go through when I do my bevels here and mark, so it gets rid of that sharp line right in the middle. And then later on, the edges here will get fixed whenever I C-sharp it again, which I periodically do. I like to just hit stuff with C-sharp just to make sure it's good to go and make sure it's happy. But with my weapons course that I am going to be doing for people soon, I'm going to be putting it on Blender Market and Gumroad. For those of you who have bought my other course, it wasn't the greatest of course, but it got the message and the job done. I do want to do a very extensive course for people so they kind of get an idea of the workflow and how to go about it, because a lot of people are moving from other programs, and a lot of people haven't ever even done 3D before, but they want to do it because they see other people doing it and they're like, wow, I really want to get into this so I can get my ideas out there. And I always highly recommend people go out and do the ideas that pop into their head, because if you never do what you think about doing, you're going to regret it in the future and realize, man, I should have done that. So now we got our frame, we got our trigger guard in, so we need to start going in and adding some details. So we have our mag release here, trigger pin, sear pin, and our takedown little spring thing there, but it's got a nice little indent. So quick and easy way to do that is we're going to pop in a cylinder, scale it down, move it up a little bit. We're going to have that cylinder try to match the angle at least, and I like to just pick outside edges, make sure they line up with each other. And we're going to go with something a little bit bigger than what we need, because we're going to squish it in a little bit more, just so it's not such a harsh one. And then we're going to just hard ops difference it, try to match it as much as we can, but it's looking like it is somewhat matched already. But there is a little bevel going along the top here, and we kind of want to match that as well. So before that is live, we're just going to take this edge here, and it stops about right here, which is good. So we're going to take that edge, just give it a slight little bevel, because we like what it's doing, and we're going to hide it. And there we go. So now that's in there. We're going to hide that. Got a little bit of cleanup to do, but that's not bad. There's a lot of videos out there, especially made by Master Xeon 1001. He does a good idea at explaining topology and everything and fixing issues in his video, and so does Ponty on his course as well. I'm definitely going to be doing the same thing in my courses, helping people figure out the best plan of action to get rid of artifacts. So you can do it multiple different ways. I like to go in with a knife and kind of clean up the edges a little bit to get rid of more artifacts and issues that you might have. It's definitely always advised to slap the weighted normal modifier on it. That's helped me tremendously in the past. So I'm hoping this video won't be too terribly long, and there's always hope for it, but you never know, because knowledge is a crazy thing, and sometimes it takes 5 minutes to learn something, sometimes it takes years and years. It depends on people's dedication and devotion to what they really want to do. Go back to view for that. So right now we're going to get these pins created here. So I'm just going to draw out just the pin. I'm going to hit X, send it all the way through. Make sure my model's selected here. Draw the pin, move it over with G if you need to. Hit X, send it all the way through. So we got those in, got our pins, which is neat. Take that off. So this pin worked out for me, we're going to keep it, but this one did not. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that one, go ahead and sharpen it, clean up this disgusting mess here. And one of the things that I've realized and learned over the past is you never really want to mess with the verts that create your circle, because you'll end up getting a lopsided circle if you mess with that. So you always want to join your geometry on the outside of the circle to the circle itself to prevent nasty messes on your circle. So that looks pretty good, but we got a lot of mess going on here, which is fine because we're going to need some room to slightly bevel the outside diameter of this. And as you see, it's not working too terribly well because we got a lot of issues going on, but we can fix that. So what I'm going to do for stuff like this is I want to get rid of the bevel modifier so I can see what I'm doing. I really dislike, I know I can change it, but I'm trying to roll with the punches as they come to me. I really dislike the new Blender 2.83 where it's not Alt-M anymore to merge stuff, it's just M. And it's kind of gotten on my nerves. I don't quite like it that way anymore. That was a weird behavior of the knife. We don't quite like that. But we're going to leave it. Just giving this some love and support in its life. Making horrible end guns, but it looks good still, so we're going to go with it. Now this one here, I'm going to C sharp. We don't like how sharp that is there as far as this line goes, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of it. Give it some more support in its life besides what it has. So now that that's done, we're going to take this outside edge and do pretty much the same thing. Give it a slight little bevel, which is good. And now this is where we see if weighted normal is going to help us out, which it is not currently. There. So we're good to go with that. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen this, turn my bevel back on, and we're cooking. Still looking a bit hideous over here. Got some issues going on. That edge is just nasty. But sometimes it be like that. We don't like it to be like that, but sometimes it do be like that. But a lot of the times with these issues, these edges just need some more love and support in their life, because right now they're crippling under all the stress that they're having to deal with. But once you give them the love and support they need, they just pop right back out and start looking good, and you know, they become productive members of society and all that, and it's looking great. That's probably the biggest reason why that's an issue there. We don't want stuff like that. Very cool. So we're getting it slowly figured out here. A lot of the times I find this type of stuff right here somewhat relaxing, and it's a bit crazy to say that, but for me it's problem solving. It's finding the solution to an issue that you're having, and I like doing that. It's fun finding solutions to issues. I quite enjoy this type of stuff. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't stand, you know, figuring out what's going on with my geometry here, and it's making me mad. But it's problem solving, and when you get your final result done, it doesn't always look bad. I mean, there's millions and millions of different ways to do that, and that was a pretty horrible example, and we're just going to pretend that that never happened over there. So as long as you guys don't say anything, I won't say anything. So we're just going to get this pin pulled up in here. Just a basic cylinder. And extrude it to where it just pops out on the bottom. Sharpen it. Apply the scale. Add a bevel to it. And we're done. So there's that. We're looking pretty good. So we can keep moving on now. We need to get our slide takedown. I was lost for words there just for a moment. Move that. I was holding shift so I can be more precise, try to line up those edges. There's multiple different ways you can be precise, be it getting the actual measurements for the gun, taking measurements in real life, or just eyeballing it. And a lot of the times it's all it needs is just a quick little eyeball. You figure it out and it works. So we got that in there now. Before I did that, I'm going to duplicate this, then I'm going to hold shift and difference it. Slightly smaller, bring it up on that axis. And so we got a little bit of cleanup here, not a big deal. Scoot that line over, scoot that line over. Same with this one. It's just our bevel not being too happy. And we got a nice support line going down the middle of it, so it's not going to have any crazy stray stuff going on. I'm going to bring that in about right there. And now on the Glock in real life, this would be your takedown pin, or your takedown switch, latch, whatever you want to call it. This would allow you to remove the slide of the weapon off. Really simple to do. But on this model, we're not going to model all the internals and the rails and all that stuff, because it's just something quick I wanted to show you guys about how I do what I do. So now we're going to go in and add this. It's going to be pretty easy. But before we do that, we want to make sure all of our mirrored stuff is done, because on a Glock, this is a different shape on the other side. It's more of a rectangle instead of this little piece here. So we're going to make it look like this on this side, but on the other side it's going to be a square. So we want our everything that's going to be mirrored to make sure it's mirrored. And if it is, we can keep going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to bevel this edge here. Just enough so it looks good. Mark that. So we got some too close for comfort over here. We got too many people wanting in at the same place. We got to social distance these vertex here. And that was a horrible job. I probably could have just merged every one of them to that point. That solved that problem. Sometimes it's just work smarter, not harder. That was definitely a situation where I could have been a bit smarter with that, but it'd be like that sometimes. So only thing we need to do is put a little pin right here. So we're going to do that. That pin here would be where you would attach some grip extensions for people with bigger hands. Because people with bigger hands, they want to be able to hold a weapon too. And if your hands are too big, you can't really hold a weapon too terribly well. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to shoot as accurately. It's too long. Put it about right there. Alright. Now that that's there, we're going to go ahead and bevel this as well. And we're going to sharpen the frame. So this pin here, it does a couple of things. It holds the sear down in the frame, and it also allows something, a point to index a grip extension on as well. So it's a multi-purpose hole there. So we do have a slight little discrepancy here, which is an easy fix. And this is horrible looking, so we're gonna merge that, and we're gonna do that as well. So we clean that all up. Looking pretty good so far. We got our frame. I like to work on parts individually. A lot of people like to block it out. I say good, go for it, block it out. But for simple stuff like this, which you're looking at 5 parts really, like 5 main parts and then a couple of small pieces here and there. It's right there and it's easy to do. So now that our slide or our frame rather is nice and built almost to completion, we're going to go ahead and C-sharpen that and apply the mirror, and we're going to get our cube here, scale it down, put it in X-ray mode, scale it up. So what I'm going to try to do is scale it up to where it's about the right size. That looks to be about right. And we're going to take this face here, bring it along its original Y, put that line there, get that new face, extrude it out, put a line here. We're going to take these 2 back faces and extrude it out. Now that that's out, we can look at it, take these faces here, pull that out, and that's going to give us our shape. What we can do now is there's multiple ways we could do this. We could make a whole new part to be the mag release, or we could just do the slash function, and that's what I'm going to do. Cool. So that's good there. little bit of cleanup to do, and this edge is going to be fun to fix, which is not going to be an issue whatsoever. I don't quite like how this end is the way it is, so we're going to take these, push it along its y-axis, original y, and just move it over to where it's a little bit more respectable in the house. We don't want it to be a wild child or anything. Alright, cool. That's good looking. We're going to sharpen that. C-sharpen this. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take all of these faces and use the Loop Tools add-on. And we're just going to flatten it. Loop Tools is native to Blender. So if you don't have it, I highly recommend it. It has some neat little functions in it. And it's good to have overall. So we got our decent look going on here. We're going to dissolve these edges because they're useless to us and we don't need it. Once we got those gone, we can bevel this edge over, make it look nice, bevel that edge over, make it look nice. I don't quite remember what Glock mag releases look like, so we're just kind of winging it here, and that's about right as it is. It's going to be an extended one because you want that tactical advantage on people. And this side's just left completely flat and blank. But we do have some nasty business going on here. Now what I'm going to do is just put a knife across. Try to hide some of that ugly. And it did. We got pretty much the same exact issue here. It's just a simple fix. It's got too much stress in its life, and I ended up giving that too much stress in its life. So what we're going to do is be cheap and easy and just do something like that. Cool. I'm no topology expert, and I leave that to be for the actual experts because it's scary and I'm lazy. I like to get my results done because I'm not making this for video games. My stuff can be used for still renders, animations and such, because it doesn't have to be as polished as far as geometry goes. That's just my stance on that. So now we're going to add this trigger, which is going to be super easy to do. First thing we're going to do, add a cube. Move that there, kind of scale it up to about as much as the trigger is going to be, scale it in on the X. Which is going to be about that wide. Glock triggers are almost as wide as the hand guards are. Just almost, ever so slightly. And then we're going to rotate this and difference. So we don't need it to be as tall as it is. About right there is good enough, just to get the job done. Cool. So we got that going. We're just gonna do the good old-fashioned draw in gun, or the make in gun rather. We're gonna start from up here because we're not gonna see all this jazz. Just go down, try to match as similar as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're not going for perfect. We're going for effective, and I don't know why it put it way over there, so that's fine with me, I guess. Also don't like how that's parented. So we're going to clear the parent and keep transform. And I'm just going to snap this to the cursor, just like we did with the frame, and move it into position. Alright, we've got that moved into position. Scale it in to where it's appropriate sized. Cool beans. Now, with Glocks, they have trigger safeties. It's kind of a stupid invention. I don't understand why. If you're going to pull the trigger, it's going to shoot. And in order for you to pull the trigger, your finger has to be on the trigger. So the fact that there's a trigger safety there is a little bit ridiculous. But, you know, I didn't make the thing, so. But on Glocks, they have trigger safeties, which when you depress this front end on it with your finger, you're not really going to feel it. This back end lifts up, allowing the trigger to swivel and activate the sear. Again, in my opinion, it's kind of stupid and pointless. But if it's there for a reason, then you know we gotta trust in Glock. They know what they're doing, I guess. So whatever works for them. And we're gonna move this up along that and just add a decent little bevel to it here. Same with this edge. Can't hardly see, but it's there, I promise. Take these edges because they're not supposed to be sharp. Alright, so we're going to get that little trigger safety action going. Go ahead and extrude that out. Snap selection to cursor. Now, as far as this little menu, the Shift S menu, I don't know if this is native Blender or if it's the snapping pies I add on. I don't remember, and I don't feel like checking. But if you guys don't have that for whatever reason, and you want to have that for whatever reason, then I'll find out what it is, and I'll pin a comment in the video description, or not the description. I'll pin a comment, basically, is what I'm trying to say without going full stupid mode. So we got our little trigger safety action going on here. So now it has a nice little inset, and we're going to do that because we like nice little insets here. But before we can do nice little insets, we don't want it to be crazily inset, so we're going to do that. Inset it about like that, extrude it inwards, and we're going to take these two corner edges here, which they're there, trust me, and just slightly bevel them. So that looks pretty good. We're going to send it like that. But if you'll notice, it's not on the other side. Now it is. Cool. Good old hops mirror. Can't go wrong with that. I love the hops mirror. I use it for everything. So we've got our frame. The trigger has two little pins in it, so we're going to do the same thing. Hit the wrong button, of course. I'm going to do the yellow circle. So make sure I got the right thing selected here. One pin, two pins. Done and done, simple, easy. So now for the slide, which is hard but easy at the same time. It's as hard as you want it to be, it's as easy as you want it to be. It all really depends on attitude towards your project. Now Glock slides, they're slightly slightly less wide than the frame. Not all, it depends on which company makes it, but they are slightly different from one another. So we're going to go about there because my model is a little bit off from the reference, but it's still getting the job done. We're going to pull that all the way forward. Just to about right there. We're going to take this edge, bring it up. Cool. Looking like a Glock already. Looking like something that belongs on Roblox right now because it's very boring and plain, but that's alright. I don't know what I just did, so we're going to sharpen it and put a slight bevel on it, just so we can kind of see what we're doing here. So the first thing I like to do is get these cuts added in, because it makes a lot more sense to do it that way. I'm going to apply the scale here as well. Get our little serrations on the slide added in, because that can be mirrored, but the thing that cannot be mirrored is our cutout for the chamber here, because it's not on this side. It's only top and right side, because it's a right side, about a 45-degree angled like ejection for the shell casing. So a lot of people I've seen get wrong is they'll just make it completely almost ambidextrous looking on both sides, have two extractors. You know, it just looks a little goofy, and we don't want to do that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mirror it, put our bevel below the mirror and turn that on so we can see what we're doing. And we're just going to bevel those two top edges until it meets about the same way as this one does. And so we got a nice little angle going on here. Now what we're going to do is go to box, leave it on view, do cut. Make sure I'm selected on the right thing still. I seem to always misclick and screw that up. And we're just going to draw that in right there and array it to about where we need it to be. Add one more. And I'm just going to hold shift to push it all the way through, because I don't feel like dealing with the 3D view, messing around with it. And if you'll notice on our reference here, the serrations kind of go a little bit past that top bevel. And that doesn't make very much sense, but that's what we're going to do. Slightly past the top bevel, just like that. Doesn't have to be crazy, but it gets the job done, right? So now we got the serrations on both sides, and we got to do the same thing on this side. So what I'm going to do for this is a little bit different than what I did for the other one. So I'm going to draw our little line here, and I'm going to rotate it, which that's about perfect like that. And we're going to make sure that's what we want. Push it all the way through. Bring it back to where it's slightly past the first bevel. We're going to apply rotation and apply scale. And we're going to apply the weld. I don't know why that was there. Boxcutter and Hops have been updating like crazy, and it's kind of hard for me to keep track of the updates and all the crazy cool new features that they've been coming out with. And I'm a huge fan of them, of the new features especially, but it's a lot to be worried about. Like, you gotta know if you're several versions behind or not, which I'm pretty sure I'm at least 2 or 3 versions behind. But they bring a lot of stuff to the table, and if people want to know more about how to use Boxcutter and Hard Ops, like I said, I highly recommend getting the program or getting the add-ons, trying them out if you don't have them already. And if you can't afford them but you want some more information on them, then definitely look at Master Zeon's videos. He's really good at explaining how the tools work, how you use the tools. So I highly recommend doing that. Alright, so now that we got our serrations done, we're going to add this little inset cut right here with the Salient logo on it. It's probably not on the other side of the slide, but I kind of want it to be, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to pick this straight line, go with it, go down to about right here. I'm kind of eyeballing it because it's all beveled. And we'll go through and bevel it as well. Which that's going to get moved over a lot. We're going to go ahead and send it all the way through. Scooch it back out. Move that over to where it should have been, because I'm horrible at eyeballing and guessing. I'm going to take these edges here, which I should have done with the cutter, but oh well. Mark those. Mark that. I'm just going through and marking it as I bevel it because I don't want a bunch of random sharp lines and edges going all over the place. Because with that, I got a lot to deal with later on in the future. Grab that edge. Grab these edges. So that's looking pretty good. It's a little bit kind of dicey looking, but it's what the weighted normal's for. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and make sure we click on that, sharpen it just in case again. We're in business, and now is the time we get to apply our mirror and start attacking the slide here. We're going to go with just a normal box. Go ahead and add it in, make it as deep and as wide as it needs to be. Send it all the way through, and then pull it back to about right there. Or not right there, a little bit into the bevel on the other side. So it's looking about like this. Now we're going to take this end here. Just give it a nice bevel to try to match that profile. And we will move this face over to where it's about like that. We're going to take this bottom edge here and do the same thing. Give it a nice little bevel to about right there, and then we're going to chop the rest of that off. Do it like this, just in baby steps, and that's about what we want there. We'll move that forward to where she's matching up nice and good. Move it down. That's about what we want. Now I'm going to go through here and add a loop in. Take this whole edge from here over, just push it back ever so slightly, where it gives us that nice little edge type situation going. And I'm actually going to move this more forward so it looks a bit better. So that's about the way about what we want it to look like right there. Alright, now that we've got that done, we can go in and get this extractor spring all nice and cut out there. So go back into X-ray mode, draw a box as good as we can, and we're just going to go ahead and push it all the way through, pull it back out just so we can get it to where we need it. Very cool. Looking good. A little bit deeper. Give that a nice bevel over. And we can go ahead and hide that. We're going to add that little cylinder in there, which is pushing on the spring for the extractor. Go about right there with it. Very cool. We're going to go ahead and just C-sharpen it, not shade smooth. Shade smooth was not the best decision to be made there. Go ahead and add in another good old-fashioned cube. We need cubes in our life. Always gotta treat the default cube with respect, because a lot of things have been created with just the default cube, and if you're not respecting the cube, then cube's not going to respect you, and it's not going to allow you to do what you need to do within Blender and any other program that gives you a default cube. You just gotta treat it with love every now and then. Go in there, just mess some stuff up with Boxcutter and Hard Ops and all that, and just take the cube out on a nice date. Make it feel good about itself. Cubes need love too. I don't want to go too crazy and too in depth with that yet. That's what my course is going to be for. So with my course, we're going to be doing highly detailed stuff. We're not going to be doing the interiors of stuff, because that's just way too much work, and I don't want to have anybody do that, because unless you have to, and unless you want to, you shouldn't really feel the need to do that type of crazy stuff. We're just going to leave that like that. I don't feel like dealing with it. Now, with the slides on Glocks, on the front ends here, kind of goes down and allows the recoil spring to sit down in there with it. Cool. Looks a lot better. So now what we're going to do is take this, since it's no longer mirrored, we're going to take that and bevel it till we get it to about where we need it to be, which is about right there. And I'm also going to use the blue box because it comes into hand sometimes. Got that line drawn there. We get this, extrude it down. Take these edges here, bevel them, and we're cooking pretty good now. So that doesn't need to be there. And we're actually just going to draw a line straight down all the way through it. It's about right there. Yeah, just kind of give us that line back and get rid of these two guys, because we don't need you anymore. Now, a quick and easy way to cut that out for the slide is I just like to duplicate the face, select, make it its own piece, origin to geometry, and extrude it out after I select every bit of it. Extrude it out, move it to where the other one is, difference after we take off the bevel modifier, and we're good to go. It's looking pretty good. We just got to find out what's going on with this right here and why it's going on right there. So we're going to hide that, and we're going to take a look into what's going on right here. Flip our normals, because that's what the problem was. Unhide everything and hide our cutters. Don't need that in our life. Very cool. Now we got that going on in there. We're starting to look like a Glock here. May not be the perfect one, but I did want to kind of make this video nice and short for you guys, because I don't want to bore you to death. And I wanted to get some content out because, like I said, I'd been gone for a while, and you know, you guys want content, so. I'm gonna go right here, make it about that big. A lot of people are gonna be like, oh, that's way too big. No, because there's still gotta go a barrel that's gotta fit inside this hole as well. So I've taught somebody one-on-one, and we'll probably never do it again, because they just wanted to keep interrupting me and tell me that, oh, that's not how you do that, that's not the right way, you're supposed to do it this way, and blah blah blah. And it's just I got tired of hearing it. I wasn't having it. I wasn't gonna have somebody come to me and ask for help and then tell me how to help them. But yeah, barrel's got to fit inside this hole. I don't want to get off on a tangent. So we're definitely just gonna redo that and snap our cursor to the world origin. Add in a cube. Bring it in here, and we want to add some thickness to the slide, basically, because we're going to have that little cutout right there. We want some meat when we look at it at an angle, so go ahead and difference that. It's kind of hard to see, there's nothing going on right yet. And I'm going to get a box from the view. We got our box from the view. We're going to go ahead and punch it in, scale it a little bit on the Y, to where it's just kind of meeting what we want. Then we're going to take this top face here, push it forward. And just give that a nice little bevel. Scale it some more on the Y. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I kind of like the way that looks better than the way that hole is. That hole just kind of looks like somebody attacked it with some drill bits and a file. We got that in. And what we're going to do now is just go ahead and grab that box that we used for its cutter. Come on, there we go. Give it some more meat. There we go. What a nice meaty slide. Got that added in there. Now we're going to add the barrel and the chamber. So first is going to be our barrel. Just move it over ever so slightly. And we're going to extend it out. Grab this face here, and we're just doing like a real quick hops and box cutter type Glock right now. We're not going to be substance painting it or anything. Alright, now we're going to add our chamber here. It's not really going to be a chamber as much as it's going to be just a fancy looking cube. Like I said, we can get crazy detailed, or you can just do it simple to where it looks good enough, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as it looks good in your eyes, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks about it. So we're going to go ahead and just join these together without the union. And I'm going to get the box on object mode. Draw out a nice little cut here. Kind of go like that. Push it in. Cool. So we got that going. I like how that looks. We're getting there. We're almost finished, ladies and gentlemen. We got to add the recoil spring, the sights, the back plate, and the mag. That's it. We've made a Glock, and it's going to be like an hour. A lot of people can't do laundry in an hour, so that's pretty cool. That was lame. But we're going to go with it. So moving swiftly along. I don't really like the way those sights look, so I'm going to kind of do my own thing as far as that's concerned. So there's this little thing called a dovetail, which is kind of like angled, like a trapezoid, I guess is what it would be called. Little angled notch cut into the slide to accept sights, or in this case just like a rear sight leaf almost. About like that. We're going to go up past the bevel, grab this top face here, scale it in so it gives us that little angle bit that I was talking about. Very cool. All finished with that. Now all we got to do is just add a rear sight, and that's pretty simple. So we're going to get a good old-fashioned cube again, set it up there. Once we got our cube set up, make the bottom two corners here match up with the slide. And then we're going to bring this down, scale it on the Y to where it matches up with our dovetail, or our sight leaf rather. And then we're just going to take this edge and scale it in on the X. Doesn't have to be perfect because sights don't always line up with the rails, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Now we're going to take this line and we're just gonna bevel it to where we get something about like that. Extrude it upwards, extrude it to the rear. We're going to take these edges here, bevel them over after we apply our scale, bevel those over. I kind of like the way that sight looks, but I kind of like to do my own thing when it comes to making sights for weapons. So what we're going to do, we're just going to snap cursor to selected, add another old-fashioned cube, which instead of doing that, we're going to use some Boxcutter. Make sure I have it on the right setting, and we're going to bevel that, send it through just like that. Let the bevel take care of it. We're going to sharpen that. Now we're going to go to circle, onto object, and I'm going to just kind of eyeball it right about there and push it through. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go over to the make one now and just draw another cylinder out, and this is going to be like our glowy fancy glow sight thing, if that makes any sense. So we're going to do origin to cursor and just mirror it over, and these will be our little glow sights for the rear bit there. Now we need to do a bit of fancying up on these sights because it doesn't look as good. Go into view, I'm just going to send it like that, which that didn't work, so we're going to Control Z that. Send it like that, just rotate it and place it about right there, kind of like that angle. But we will move it up to where those lines kind of meet in with each other, and we can go ahead and fix that up too. Oh, we were really close, ladies and gentlemen. At last, there we go. We're cooking, we're looking good. I'll go ahead and add another cut down the side. We'll go ahead and try to make it look somewhat decent and kind of matching the original reference, but I like to take my creative liberties and do what I want to do. It makes me a lot more happier with my pieces that I was able to sort of follow along the guidelines of somebody else, but also be able to do my own thing at the same time. So I like the way those sights look. They're like range sights. They really quick for target acquisition. We're going to make this be our front sight. Now with Glocks with front sights, they don't have the little dovetail thing. They can, but they most often don't. What they usually have is a little pin post on the sight itself that goes through the slide and is screwed in from the bottom, which is really easy to replace. Some of them are press fit, some of them are just good old-fashioned just like screws. I prefer screws with like Loctite on it, so you don't have to get a machine to press it in and out whenever you want to change your sight. Go ahead and make that wider. Very cool. Let's see if it lines up. It does line up. I like the way that looks. Alright, so now we're going to get a circle. We're just going to go ahead and send it through there like that and make it a little bit bigger. Go with something like that. That looks pretty good. Going to snap cursor to selected, add a cylinder in, rotate it, get it where we need it to be, and just kind of look at it on this over here to see if we got things kind of lined up. You want these lines to be pretty parallel with each other, so we're actually going to take this and scale it down. It's a little too big and we don't want it that big. About like that works. Very cool. Take that. We're going to duplicate this like we have been doing before. Difference that. Sharpen it. Bevel it. Too much bevel. And now we're going to go into edit mode and shift in because our normals were all jacked up. Sharpen that. Put a slight little bevel on it. And we got our front sight going here. So we're just about done. We need one more thing here in the magazine and then we'll be done. Could try to slap some kit ops textures on it to kind of get an idea of what it looks like. But normally after I finish things up, I like to check my mesh, make sure it's nothing crazy is going on. I like to apply my modifiers and then go back and check if I'm keeping the bevels and I'm not doing any normal baking with the bevels. Then I like to pay extra attention to make sure it's, it's looking good and we got all of our issues taken care of. I'm just adding these here because I'm hoping it's going to fix that artifact, which it did. I'll go ahead and add that there. This is like just the very end of your recoil spring. A lot of people think Glocks or weapons like Glocks have a spring wrapped around the barrel, which is very incorrect. Could not be further from the truth. Literally the only thing that is making this slide go back and forth is the recoil spring, and it's usually a captive spring system which has 2 or 3 springs along like a little guide rod. It's really cool looking. But yeah, it's not a spring up there in the slide that like a lot of people think. Now, a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with this, and in some countries this is your only choice. A lot of people will use airsoft as it's kind of like a way to like reference their stuff, and which is fine. I definitely urge people to do that, because not everybody can go out and get a real gun. Not everybody has the opportunity to look at guns, so their next best option is to look at an airsoft gun. And I will always highly recommend that, because there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of airsoft guns are made to the same measurements as real weapons. A lot of people are probably thinking right now in their head, what in the world is he doing? There's a little weird cutout thing in the back of Glocks, and it has something to do with the sear system. I could get more detailed into my explanation behind it, but I'm really not trying to do all that business right now. But it's basically just slight cutouts. And what we'll do actually as well, take that, get a box, make sure we have the right thing selected, put it through, kind of send it like that, and get my right axis here that I'm wanting to go across. There we go. Just a little bit more detail, something to look good. And so for this, we're going to do this in 2 parts, which is perfect because it's already done it. In Glocks, they have these little hollow cavities here, which go up into the grip for whatever reason it's manufacturing. And then they have this hollow area for where the magazine goes up into the grip. And we're just going to push it up in there just enough, because we're not going to be modeling the interior like I've said, but what we will do is get a cube, scale it down. And this is going to basically be our magazine slash stand-in for a magazine. About like that. I'll even move it back a little bit more. We're going to take this front end here, because on Glock magazines they are curved on the front but not on the back. They do have like a slight bevel, but nothing crazy. We're going to go ahead and sharpen that, and we're going to duplicate it, bring it down, scale it on the X and on the Y. Bring it up ever so slightly. That looks pretty decent. I'm going to take this top edge here, bevel that over. That looks horrible. We're not going to do that. Bevel that over. Leave those how they are. And as far as the bottom goes, we're going to do about the same thing here. Nothing too terribly crazy. And it looks like it's got like a weird little plate situation going on, so we're going to try to replicate that as well. Very cool. So now we kind of got our magazine situation under control now, so we have the ammunition to do what we need to do. And that's pretty much it as far as this goes. It looks pretty good. It's got, you know, some issues here and there that we can easily fix up by just joining some geometry together. A little bit of cleanup, not too bad. Like I said before, this is fun to me because I'm assuming that I'm insane. But it's problem solving, and if you don't enjoy problem solving, then this is not the right field for you. I do not recommend doing 3D stuff if you're not ready to get into problem solving. So we did end up forgetting something on this side of the pistol. We forgot the slide release and the little cutout notch for the slide release there. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. I completely forgot about that. So accidentally pulled up the decal machine. So we're going to go with blue box and the box here, and we're going to go from view this time. And I'm just going to drag it on over here, shoot that all the way through, and we're going to grab this edge right here and just extend it out just along the x-axis here. This could actually go up some more, and this could go in this way. So you want it right where your thumb's going to be. And now we're just going to take this edge here, push it up, take both of these, pull it down because I messed up and didn't give it enough room. We're going to go ahead and raise that up and this up as well, just to kind of give it that nice little rise there. And we're going to take all of these edges, bring it in. So now we kind of got that shape going, and we are almost there. Got to get this box, just bring it in, send it through, but it doesn't need to go all the way through, so we're going to go ahead and pull that back this way some more, just to give it a little bit of that. Go ahead and sharpen that. Put my cursor there, add a good old-fashioned cube again. Move it like that, stretch it on the Y. Extrude it out. Extrude it out again. Extrude it down. And we're going to push that in. This is actually too far down, so we're going to bring that back up. Take these two lines and push it this way. Take this edge and bevel it some. Same with this edge here. So we got that. I'm going to go ahead and add a bevel to it. Just a slight one, and we're going to take these two edges here, bevel that over. So now we got our slide release there, and on Glocks the slide catch, where it catches, is usually right above here. It's a little bit to the left of the takedown pin, and this isn't even mirrored from over here, so we're going to go ahead and mirror that much better. So basically, when the slide goes back, you want the slide to be directly over the magazine that's going to be in. So we'll just imagine there's a magazine in here. You want this port to be directly over where the magazine is, so that's where the slide catch would be at. So we're going to go ahead and put that back where it was, just so we kind of got an idea of where it's at. And we're going to get in-gun cutter. Just go up at an angle here and bring it across and straight down. Put that through. That was too far, so we're going to grab our last cutter here. that was not it. I don't know where it went, so we're just going to go ahead and do that again. Go straight down with it and then hold shift this time when we send it all the way through. Bring it up just so there's enough for that slide to catch on the thing here. Sharpen it, and we're in business. We're looking pretty good. Doesn't look half bad at all. It would look even better in Substance Painter, but we're not going to be doing that in this episode. So yeah, I'm going to slap some Eevee materials on it, a little bit of regular Blender materials, just so we can kind of get an idea of it and go from there. Alright, so I went ahead and added some basic textures on it with the Eevee Smart Materials. I did miss this spot here like a genius. So we're going to Alt-V and go to our, sorry, not Alt-V, but I can't remember the hotkey right off the top of my head like some sort of super genius, but we'll just go ahead and select it like that for now. And this is what we're left with, so it looks pretty good in terms of that goes. So what we can do now is unselect everything, and we're going to add the hops camera, which is really nice. Gives you like a turntable style preview of what you've done. So if you go ahead and hit spacebar, you can do that. Now if we were to take this and move it down, and I take the camera and move it up a little bit, wherever that empty is wherever the camera is going to track to. So it's pretty neat, and you can change the speed of the rotation with the driver settings, as well as your frame rate. It should automatically adjust to your frame rate. So this is what we're left with. Really glad I could help you guys somewhat learn it, how to do this. Like I said, I'm going to be having a course coming out very soon of how to do both a pistol and a rifle very realistically using Boxcutter and Hard Ops. Right, so I went ahead and added the lights for the Ops tool here, which is really cool. It adds in lights. So what we can do is I can go ahead and get rid of those, select everything, deselect everything, add lights, and I like the first one there, and so it adds lights. So that looks pretty cool as well. We're going to go down to our color management and give it some contrast. And that looks pretty good to me. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely give it a thumbs up, comment your questions and concerns. I'd be glad to help anybody out if they have any issues. Going to be getting that course hopefully up soon by this weekend, if not the start of next week. So be excited for that. That's going to be really fun and really in-depth. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, this was Stellar, and I'm glad I was able to show you guys how to make a Glock.